Fluid, mysterious, witty, the Sumerians, as far as we know, are the first great civilization in history. And the political, social, and cultural story of human history actually begins in Mesopotamia with the order they established. But let's go back to the very beginning. After humanity emerged from Africa, it spread to different parts of the world. For a long time, communities lived as hunter-gatherers, but around 10,000 years ago, they experienced a major break. This break is known as the Neolithic Revolution. Can you please give a like to the video? Now, people started producing instead of just consuming what they found ready in nature. Crops like wheat and barley were planted and harvested, and animals were domesticated. This change transformed not only nutrition, but the entire social structure. Because once production began, people now had to stay in one place. Thus, settled life was born. This process concentrated in a very special area in Mesopotamia. The lower parts of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers were fertile, but also quite difficult. Summers were very hot, the land was marshy, and water was irregular. So living here was not easy. But precisely this difficulty gave birth to Sumerian civilization, because people had to act together to control water, sustain agriculture, and survive. This led small communities to grow and establish organized cities. Over time, villages grew and cities emerged. Pottery, weaving, and agricultural techniques developed. As production increased, trade began. Now, people produced not only for themselves, but for others. From around 5500 BCE, large settlements began to appear in Mesopotamia. However, the first inhabitants of these lands were not the Sumerians. Earlier, a people called the Ubaid culture lived here. The Sumerians later came to the region and mixed with this indigenous people to form a new civilization. The origin of the Sumerians is not exactly known. There are different theories, but what is clear is this. After arriving in Mesopotamia, they established a very powerful urban civilization. Cities such as Kish, Uruk, Lagash, Nippur, and Eridu emerged. Each of these cities had its own king and functioned like independent city-states. Around 3200 BCE, the Uruk period begins. This period is very critical for human history because writing was invented. With cuneiform script, information became permanent for the first time. Now, history is not just something told, but something recorded. At the head of these cities were usually priest kings called ensi or patesi. That is, both religious and political power were in the same hands. According to Sumerian mythology, kingship was given to humans by the gods. It is even told that before the flood, some cities were ruled by kings for thousands of years. From a historical perspective, one of the first more realistic names is Etana of Kish. In the following period, a great power struggle began among the cities. There was constant rivalry between Kish, Uruk, and other cities. In this period, kings like Enmebaragesi tried to show their power by conducting campaigns as far as Elam. On the Uruk side, Enmerkar, Lugalbanda, and later Gilgamesh, who would become legendary, appeared on the scene. Gilgamesh became not only a king, but also a figure representing humanity's quest for immortality. But the Sumerian world was never ruled by a single center. Cities constantly fought each other, formed alliances, and broke them again. This chaotic structure eventually gave opportunities to outside powers. The Elamites, and especially the Gutians, frequently intervened in Mesopotamia. Can we also get a subscription now? At one point, Lugal-Zagesi emerged and united nearly all the Sumerian cities. This was the first major unification attempt in Sumerian history. But this unity did not last long, because one of the most important figures in history appeared on the stage. Sargon of Akkad. After defeating the king of Kish, Sargon very quickly captured all the Sumerian cities, one by one. He brought not only the cities, but the entire region under his control. And thus, the first known empire in human history was born. This empire spread over much larger area than Mesopotamia. But as always with empires, it started strong, but did not last. Internal problems, rebellions, and especially the attacks of the Gutians weakened the Akkadian Empire, and eventually collapse came. After the fall of the Akkadians, the Sumerian cities became independent again, but this time it was not easy to regain their former power. Cities like Lagash, Uruk, and tried to rise again. In this period, Ur-Nanshe, king of Lagash, and then Eannatum achieved significant military successes. Especially the border wars with Umma were the most famous conflicts of the era. Later, Lugal-Zaggisi emerged in Uruk. He stands out as the leader carrying out the first major social reforms known in history. He tried to correct justice, limiting taxes and corruption. But the Sumerian world could not unite again. After a while, Lugal-Zaggisi again established a great power and brought many cities under his control. But this did not last, because a new power was rising in the north, the Akkadians. And eventually, the path to the era of Hammurabi was opened. Hammurabi, of Amorite origin, strengthened Babylon and brought the Sumerian cities under his own rule. Thus, the period of independent Sumerian city-states came to an end. But the Sumerians did not disappear. Their legacy continued. Writing, law, the idea of the city-state, the temple order, and the concept of the state. All of these formed the foundation of human history. And even today, traces of the Sumerians exist in the roots of the modern world.